It's a city north of Ankara, home to a legendary poet and rebel. But the name Bolu is making headlines in Turkey for an entirely different reason. The city has become the symbol of the anti-Arab sentiment sweeping the country.
Whenever something happens in Syria, there's trouble here.
Saif is an Iraqi national living in the city since 2014. He prefers to remain anonymous.
Here they don't care if you are Syrian or Iraqi, it's all the same to them. A while ago, when some Turkish soldiers were killed in Syria, they started being nasty to all Arabs. They told us, go back home, go back and fight. Why are we dying in your country? But how am I to blame?
Saif escaped a war, but says the atmosphere in Bolu is another kind of violence.
The psychological war is bigger than the real war. If you work, they think you are rich, as if you're taking their jobs. They're on your back all the time. This war is stronger than weapons.
Bolu's municipality and province is in the hands of the CHP, the biggest opposition party. According to local measures that are now on hold, foreigners were expected to pay more for water and electricity bills. Getting married would have cost them 100 times more than Turks at City Hall. Most extreme of all, the governor tried to ban foreigners from going outside after 9 p.m. Mayor Tanju Özcan refused to answer our questions because we belong to the international press, but he recently accepted to be interviewed on the set of a Turkish TV station.
70% of foreigners in Bolu are Iraqis. Is there a war in Iraq? Our businessmen bring workers and invest in Baghdad and in Erbil. This guest system has gone on for too long. We should plan for them to go back because numbers are increasing. How do you integrate an Afghan? Our 15-year-old girls are being sexually harassed by them. And the Afghans don't even realize it because they're used to getting married to 9-year-olds. How are you going to integrate these people?
Turkey hosts more refugees than any other country in the world. 3.6 million of them are Syrian. Iraqis account for another 330,000. Both groups are protected in that they are not allowed to be sent back to their countries, unlike the growing Afghan population. But none are technically refugees, according to Turkish law. It's a loophole that suited the Turkish government at the onset of the Syrian war, but that has reached its limits.
So there is no any big policy, exact policy to integration in Turkey. So this is a problem. And there is no any transparency in migration policy.
Ulaş Sunata is a professor of migration policy at an Istanbul university. She says the migrants were welcomed at first, but xenophobic acts began rising when Turks realized they were here to stay.
After the refugee issue starts with protection, but continues with, we should say, because these refugee population should become a member of this society. There is no any other opportunity. They cannot return. There are still a big conflict there. So, but at this time, this actually not works nowadays, yeah.
The worsening economic situation is partly to blame, as migrants are accused of being responsible for rising prices and job scarcity. But this grassroots consortium of refugee rights groups and academics says the most dangerous forms of xenophobia are coming from the top.
Türkiye genel seçimlerine doğru yaklaştıkça siyasi parti temsilcilerinden ve medyadan sığınmacılara ilişkin ayrımcı tutum ve açıklamalar da yoğunlaşıyor.
Taha El-Ghazi is a Syrian national employed by the Turkish Education Ministry. He's also an activist and has met with political parties to convince them to keep refugees out of their slogans.
لابد يكون في عندنا ميثاق تبرمه وتوقع عليه كل الأحزاب السياسية التركية بحيث يكون هذا الميثاق قائم بشكل أساسي على أحقية إبعاد وتحييد ملف اللاجئين السوريين عن أي نزاعات سياسية بين الأحزاب وتحديداً أثناء الفترات الانتخابية.
Of course, all factions are to blame for this issue, the government and the opposition. Everyone should be responsible for stopping hate speech, because it doesn't only threaten the Syrian community, it threatens the Turkish community too.
Polls show anti-migration sentiment is on the rise. The latest violent flare-up occurred in a suburb of Ankara in August, when Syrian shops and homes were attacked after the death of a Turkish young man. Months later, tensions are by some accounts even higher, with refugees fearing they might be next.